My friends, many chase goals, but few build systems. A goal is a destination. A system is the road that takes you there over and over again. When you fix your eyes only on the destination, you risk stumbling, losing heart, or quitting when storms come. But when you focus on the road, your daily process, you walk forward every single day, regardless of the weather. Let me give you 13 keys to building systems that create success again and again. When you begin without a clear reason, you drift like a ship without a compass. You may move, but you will not move with direction. To build a system that works, you must first understand exactly why you desire the outcome you are chasing. This reason must be strong enough to withstand days of discouragement, delays, and doubt. Without that inner fuel, even the most well-designed system will run out of energy. Purpose is not just a motivational phrase, it is the very heartbeat of your actions. When your why is powerful, every small step feels worth taking, and the system becomes a natural part of your life rather than a burden you must carry. Clarity of purpose sharpens your focus. When you know precisely what you want and why you want it, you stop scattering your energy in every direction. You begin to see which actions truly matter and which are only distractions dressed as opportunities. This makes your system lean, efficient, and effective. Every decision becomes simpler because it either moves you closer to your purpose or it does not. That kind of clarity saves time, preserves energy, and keeps your system strong even in the face of chaos. Without clarity, it is easy to confuse activity with progress. You can spend days working hard, only to realize you have been climbing the wrong ladder. A well-defined purpose is the test for every action in your system. Before you add a habit, a step, or a routine, you ask, does this directly serve my deeper reason? If the answer is no, it does not belong. This keeps your system pure and aligned, ensuring that each action builds toward your vision instead of pulling you in random directions. Your purpose also serves as a constant motivator. In moments when the system feels repetitive or when results seem far away, you can return to that original reason and remind yourself why you began. It reignites your determination and turns frustration into fuel. People who quit often do not fail because their system is flawed. They fail because they forget why they started. By keeping your purpose alive in your mind and heart, you make it nearly impossible to give up completely. Finally, when your purpose is clear, it becomes easier to inspire others to join or support you. A well-defined reason communicates passion, conviction, and belief. This attracts opportunities, allies, and resources that strengthen your system even more. People are drawn to those who know where they are going, and your purpose becomes your beacon. In this way, clarity does not just keep your system running, it multiplies its power by aligning you with people and circumstances that share your vision. When most people think about achievement, they imagine a clear finish line, a moment when they can finally say, I made it. While that can feel satisfying, it is also a trap. The danger of having only a goal is that when you reach it, you often stop moving forward. A system, on the other hand, is built for continual motion. It does not end when you achieve one result, it naturally carries you into the next. By removing the idea of a finish line, you remove the risk of losing momentum after victory. The system becomes a way of life, not a temporary race. In a system, progress is no longer tied to a single event or achievement. Instead, it is tied to the rhythm of your daily actions. This means that even when you are far from the peak, you are still succeeding, because the act of following the system is itself a victory. Every step forward counts, and there is no sense of waiting to start living until the end is reached. This shift from an endpoint mindset to a process mindset changes how you feel about the journey. You learn to enjoy it, to immerse yourself in the act, and to take pride in the work itself. When the method becomes natural, it stops feeling forced. You do not need bursts of extreme motivation to get moving, because the system is integrated into your identity. Just as you do not have to remind yourself to breathe, you no longer have to convince yourself to take the necessary actions. They happen because they are part of who you are. The smoother and more natural your system feels, the more likely it is to remain unbroken even when life becomes unpredictable or challenging. This approach also protects you from the disappointment of unmet goals. Goals can be affected by circumstances beyond your control, market shifts, unexpected events, the actions of others. A system keeps you progressing regardless of these variables. While others may freeze when their original plan no longer works, you continue to move forward, adjusting your path without abandoning the journey. This resilience is one of the greatest advantages of replacing goals with systems. Another hidden benefit is that systems allow for compound growth. When you keep moving forward without pause, each improvement builds upon the last. Skills sharpen, relationships deepen, opportunities multiply, and results grow in ways you could not have predicted from the start. This is how people who seem lucky often operate. They have systems that keep them in motion long enough for luck to find them. In the end, the beauty of a system is its endlessness. There is no single peak where the climb ends and you must descend. Instead, there are many peaks, each leading to another. The journey never truly stops, it simply evolves. This keeps life vibrant and filled with purpose, because you are not chasing a single, fleeting moment. You are building a lifetime of progress. And in doing so, you discover that the real reward is not in arriving somewhere, but in becoming someone who keeps moving, growing, and creating without end. When you place all your attention on the distant harvest, you risk overlooking the small but vital act of planting. The seed is where every future result begins, and yet it is often the part people rush through or take for granted. They dream of the day when the tree will bear fruit, but forget that without consistent planting, watering, and care, the tree will never even grow. Focusing on the seed means valuing today's effort, no matter how small it seems, because each tiny action is a building block for tomorrow's abundance. The harvest is exciting because it is visible, tangible, and immediate in its rewards. But it is deceptive. It tempts you to chase outcomes rather than invest in the process that produces them. A farmer who obsesses over how many apples he will pick in autumn, but neglects to tend his orchard in spring, is certain to be disappointed. The wise one knows that the harvest is simply the natural consequence of countless days spent planting and nurturing, even when nothing appears to be happening. Planting is not glamorous work. It is repetitive, patient, and often invisible to others. That is why so many give up before they see results. They mistake the quiet season of growth for a lack of progress. But real success is built in these silent moments. It is when no one is watching, when nothing seems to be moving, that the roots are digging deep into the soil. By mastering this stage, you guarantee that the fruit will come in its season without desperation or doubt. The discipline to plant daily also protects you from the frustration of uncertainty. When your focus is on the seed in your hand and the act of putting it into the ground, you are in control. You cannot control the rain or the sun, but you can control whether you plant today. This mindset keeps you grounded because your progress no longer depends entirely on forces outside your influence. You do the work faithfully, knowing nature, and life will eventually keep its promise. Another advantage of focusing on planting is that it teaches humility and trust. You learn that great things often begin as something small and fragile. You stop expecting instant transformation and instead develop the patience to watch something grow over time. This patience becomes a rare strength, especially in a world that craves immediate gratification. You understand that the delay between planting and harvest is not wasted time. It is the very process that makes the fruit possible. When you finally see the harvest, it is sweeter because you know the effort that went into it. And yet, you do not stop. You have mastered planting, so the cycle continues. Season after season, you put seeds into the ground, confident that results will come when they are ready. In this way, your life becomes a constant garden, always in bloom somewhere, because you have learned the truth The seed planted today will always be more important than the fruit you merely hope for tomorrow. Willpower is a powerful force, but it is also fragile. It can carry you through short bursts of effort, but it is not designed for the long haul. There will be days when your energy is low, when distractions surround you, and when your mind tries to convince you to take the easy way out. If your success depends entirely on those moments of inner resistance, you will eventually give in. That is why building habits is essential. They take the decision making out of the equation and replace it with automatic action. When something becomes a habit, it stops demanding as much mental energy. You no longer wrestle with whether or not you should do it. It simply happens, like brushing your teeth or locking your door when you leave home. This automatic nature is what makes habits so powerful for success. They remove the constant battle between desire and discipline, allowing you to move forward without burning out your willpower reserves. Designing your day to support your goals means creating routines that naturally lead you toward the outcome you want. Instead of waiting for motivation to strike, you set up a sequence of actions that pull you into motion. You prepare your environment so that the right choice is the easiest choice. Over time, your brain begins to associate certain triggers with the actions you need to take, and your body moves almost without conscious thought. The beauty of habits is that they compound. One small, consistent habit, when repeated daily, creates a chain reaction that shapes your identity and your results. Drinking water first thing in the morning may lead to more energy, which leads to better focus, which leads to more productive work. Going for a short walk each evening may spark clearer thinking, which improves decision making, which strengthens your overall system. Each habit you build becomes another gear in the machine of your success. When you rely less on fleeting willpower and more on well-constructed habits, you make success sustainable. You stop depending on emotional highs to get things done and instead build a foundation that supports you even on your worst days. Eventually, the actions that once felt difficult become second nature and your system runs smoothly, almost without thought. This is how lasting results are created, not through occasional bursts of effort, but through the quiet power of habits that work for you every single day. Results often take longer to appear than we expect, and this delay can frustrate even the most determined person. You can put in weeks, months, or even years of effort before you see a clear payoff. If your sense of progress is tied only to visible results, you may lose hope before you ever arrive. But when you measure your success by your consistency, by the number of days you showed up and gave your best, you create a reason to feel accomplished every single day. This daily sense of achievement keeps you moving forward while the bigger results quietly take shape in the background. Consistency is something you can control no matter what circumstances surround you. Even if the economy shifts, opportunities vanish, or setbacks appear, you can still choose to take one step forward each day. This builds a kind of inner stability because your progress no longer depends entirely on conditions outside your control. While results may fluctuate, your effort remains steady, and that steadiness is what eventually produces the breakthroughs you desire. When you focus on showing up, you develop resilience. You stop waiting for perfect conditions to act, and you stop tying your motivation to immediate rewards. You learn to take pride in the fact that you are present and committed, even on days when you feel tired, uninspired, or uncertain. Over time, this persistence becomes part of your identity. You see yourself as someone who keeps going no matter what, and that identity alone has the power to carry you through the toughest seasons. The habit of consistency also creates momentum. Each day you act, you reinforce the belief that you can trust yourself to follow through. This builds confidence, which fuels even more action, creating a cycle of growth. And while results may still seem distant, they are moving closer with every small, repeated effort. You may not notice the progress from one day to the next, but over months and years, the compounding effect becomes undeniable. When you count the days you showed up instead of the trophies on the shelf, you free yourself from the pressure of instant success. You begin to see the journey as valuable in its own right, and this makes the work far more enjoyable. Results will come in their own time, but in the meantime, you can take satisfaction in knowing that you are building something solid through your unwavering presence. This mindset not only produces success, it sustains it for a lifetime. Success is often less about willpower and more about removing the obstacles that make good choices harder than they need to be. If the right action is surrounded by friction, hesitation, or inconvenience, you will be tempted to delay it or avoid it altogether. But when you design your environment so that the best choice is also the easiest choice, you reduce the need to fight with yourself. You no longer have to push through endless resistance. You simply follow the path you've cleared. Temptations are powerful because they are usually the most accessible option in the moment. If your system requires that you constantly say no to the wrong thing, it will eventually wear you down. The better approach is to take those temptations out of reach altogether. If you are trying to focus, silence notifications and keep your phone out of sight. If you are trying to eat healthier, don't stock your shelves with foods that pull you off track. By removing the triggers that lead to bad habits, you save your energy for the actions that matter. Clutter is another silent enemy of progress. A messy space creates a messy mind, and a messy mind is less likely to follow a disciplined system. When your environment is clear, your thoughts become clearer, and it becomes easier to take action without delay. Every moment you spend searching for tools, reorganizing, or shifting through chaos is a moment stolen from your momentum. Clearing the space where your system operates is like oiling the gears of a machine. It makes everything run smoother. Distractions don't just slow you down, they fracture your focus. Every interruption forces your brain to shift, and it can take minutes to fully return to the state of deep work you were in before. The more you can protect your environment from these intrusions, the more energy and attention you can devote to your system. This might mean working in a quieter space, setting boundaries with others, or scheduling specific times to deal with less important tasks. When you remove friction, temptations, clutter, and distractions, you create a kind of invisible support system for yourself. You no longer have to summon extraordinary discipline each day because the easiest thing to do is also the right thing to do. This makes your system feel natural rather than forced, and over time, it transforms good actions from a struggle into a habit. In this way, success becomes not just achievable, but sustainable. A system that cannot measure its own performance is like a ship sailing without a compass. You may be moving, but you have no certainty about whether you are heading in the right direction. To create lasting success, you must know how to track what is working and what is failing. This requires honest observation and a willingness to face the truth, even if the truth reveals uncomfortable facts. Without measurement, you risk spending years of effort building something that leads you nowhere. Tracking progress gives you the power to make informed adjustments instead of relying on guesswork. When you have clear indicators of success, you can see patterns that would otherwise remain hidden. You may discover that certain actions produce far greater results than others, or that some steps you assumed were essential are actually slowing you down. This insight allows you to refine your system, keeping only what adds value and removing what wastes time. A good feedback loop also prevents small problems from becoming big disasters. By regularly checking your progress, you can spot signs of trouble early. This might mean noticing a decline in performance before it becomes a collapse, or catching a habit that's drifting off course before it turns into a setback. When your system is designed to respond quickly to these warning signals, you can correct your path with minimal disruption. Feedback is not just about numbers. It is also about paying attention to how the system feels. Sometimes the most important signals come from your own experience. If a process consistently drains your energy, frustrates you, or conflicts with your values, it is a sign that something needs to change. By listening to both measurable results and your own instincts, you make your system not only effective, but also sustainable. The most powerful systems are alive. They evolve as you learn. They are not rigid structures that resist change, but flexible frameworks that grow stronger through adaptation. When you measure, review, and adjust regularly, your system becomes sharper, faster, and more efficient over time. Instead of becoming outdated or stale, it stays relevant, powerful, and capable of carrying you forward for years to come. A good expansion here would show the difference between acting disciplined and being disciplined. In identity, describe how self-image drives consistent action, give real, life parallels, and explain how tying a system to identity makes quitting far less likely. It should be motivational but practical, with enough depth that the reader can picture how this works in daily life. We could focus on the internal shift from external effort to natural self-expression. When you see yourself as someone trying to be disciplined, every action feels like a test of willpower. You constantly have to negotiate with yourself, convincing your mind to do what your heart already knows it should. But when discipline becomes part of your identity, the struggle disappears. You no longer ask, "Should I do this?" because the answer is already built into who you are. Just as a musician naturally practices or an athlete naturally trains, you act because it is what someone like you does. This shift from effort to identity is subtle but powerful. Instead of waking up and trying to summon motivation, you wake up and simply live out the role you've chosen for yourself. You become a person who follows through, keeps commitments, and honors the system no matter what. Others may admire your consistency, but to you, it feels as normal as breathing. It's not something you force, it's something you are. When your actions reflect your identity, setbacks no longer have the power to break you. Missing one day doesn't shatter your self-image because you know it's an exception, not the rule. You return to your system quickly, not out of guilt, but out of alignment with who you've decided to be. This is why identity-driven systems last so much longer than motivation-driven goals. They're woven into the very fabric of your character. Over time, this alignment builds unshakable confidence. You trust yourself to act, even under pressure, because you've proven again and again that discipline is not a mood you chase, it's your nature. Others may be searching for hacks, shortcuts, or bursts of inspiration, but you already have what they are looking for. You've made discipline not just a tool you use, but the person you are, and once that transformation happens, quitting is no longer an option. It simply doesn't fit the story you live by. No matter how strong your system is, there will be days when everything feels heavier than usual. Motivation will fade, energy will dip, and problems will seem to appear from every corner. These moments are not signs of weakness. They are simply part of the human experience. If you build your system as if every day will be perfect, it will collapse the moment reality tests it. The true strength of a system lies in its ability to function even when conditions are far from ideal. Planning for the hard days means creating a safety net in advance. This could be a lighter version of your routine for when you are exhausted, a list of quick tasks that keep momentum alive, or a set of comforting reminders that reconnect you to your purpose. By thinking about these situations before they arrive, you remove the pressure of making decisions in a low-energy state. Instead of wondering how to keep going, you already have a plan ready to carry you forward. Sometimes this lifeline is not about doing more, but about protecting what you've already built. On the toughest days, maintaining your smallest habits can be enough to keep your system intact. A 5-minute action may not seem like much, but it sends a message to yourself that you are still in the game. This keeps your identity as someone who follows through alive, and when your energy returns, you can ramp back up without having to start from scratch. Obstacles are inevitable, but they lose much of their power when you anticipate them. If you know that distractions, emergencies, or emotional setbacks are part of life, you won't be shocked or discouraged when they appear. You will see them as temporary weather conditions, unpleasant perhaps, but never permanent. Your lifeline gives you a way to navigate through the storm instead of being swept away by it. A system that includes built-in resilience is one that will last for years. By preparing for low-energy days and inevitable challenges, you make your process unbreakable. This readiness transforms what could have been moments of defeat into opportunities to prove your commitment. It's not the perfect days that define your success, it's how well you keep going when everything in you wants to stop. And when you have your lifeline prepared, you never truly stop. You simply adjust until you can surge forward again. Small victories are often overlooked because they don't look dramatic in the moment. They are quiet, almost invisible, but they carry the weight of progress within them. Each one is proof that movement is happening, even if the destination is still far away. When you recognize these wins, you feed your motivation in a way that large, distant achievements cannot. They remind you that the effort you are putting in is not wasted and that you are capable of creating change one step at a time. Momentum is rarely born from giant leaps. It comes from the steady rhythm of consistent effort. Every time you complete a small task, keep a promise to yourself, or make a tiny improvement, you strengthen that rhythm. Over days and weeks, these moments stack on top of one another, forming a chain that becomes hard to break. The longer the chain grows, the more you want to protect it, and the more naturally the next step comes. These small wins also shift your perspective on progress. Instead of feeling like success is locked behind one huge, far-off goal, you see it as something you are already experiencing in pieces. This makes the journey far less overwhelming. A mountain can seem impossible to climb when you stare at the peak, but when you focus on each step you've already taken, the climb feels not only possible but inevitable. Celebrating these moments creates a positive emotional loop. The satisfaction you feel from a small victory encourages you to seek that feeling again, leading you to take more action. Over time, you become less dependent on waiting for big results to feel fulfilled. You start to value the process itself, which keeps you engaged long after others have burned out chasing only the big milestones. When you understand that empires are built brick by brick, you stop rushing the process. You realize that every small action has weight and meaning, even if no one else notices. This mindset allows you to keep building without frustration, trusting that the empire will appear in time. The secret is simple but powerful. Never underestimate the quiet strength of a small win, because it is the seed from which all great achievements grow. The human mind is easily distracted, and even the strongest intentions can fade when they are out of sight. What you see regularly, you remember. What you forget, you neglect. A system, no matter how well designed, begins to weaken when it drifts into the background of your life. That is why visibility is so important. When the process you've committed to is in front of you every day, it stays alive in your mind and continues to demand action. Keeping your system visible doesn't mean cluttering your space with random reminders. It means placing deliberate cues where you will encounter them naturally. A checklist on your desk, a calendar on the wall, or a progress tracker on your phone can act as silent partners in your success. Every time you see them, you are reminded of the commitment you made to yourself. This subtle nudge helps you stay connected to the process without having to summon willpower from scratch each day. Visibility also keeps your focus sharp. In a world full of competing demands, it's easy for priorities to blur. You might intend to work on your system, but urgent distractions pull your attention elsewhere. When your process is right in front of you, it competes with those distractions and often wins. You are far less likely to ignore something that is literally staring you in the face. This turns your system into a constant presence in your life, rather than a passing thought you revisit only when it's convenient. Tracking progress in a visible way creates a sense of accountability. When you see the marks of your effort or the empty spaces where action should have been taken, you get immediate feedback on your behavior. This visual record becomes a mirror, reflecting whether you are living in alignment with your commitment. On days when you're tempted to skip, the sight of an unbroken streak or a nearly complete checklist can be the extra push you need to follow through. A visible system also builds motivation through a sense of achievement. Watching your progress accumulate over time is deeply satisfying. It transforms your journey from something abstract into something tangible. You can see the work you've done, and that sight fuels the belief that more is possible. This belief, in turn, strengthens your consistency because the more progress you witness, the less willing you are to lose it. The simple act of keeping your system in sight has a profound psychological effect. It keeps the process alive in your mind, strengthens your connection to your goals, and makes action the default choice rather than the optional one. Over time, the habit of seeing and engaging with your system becomes part of your environment and your identity. You no longer rely on memory or motivation alone. You have built a world where your success is always in view. What serves you well in the early stages of your journey may eventually become the very thing that holds you back. Systems are meant to be living structures, not rigid cages. When you first begin, the methods you choose are designed for your current level of skill, resources, and understanding. They help you take your first steps, gain confidence, and build a foundation, but as you grow, your needs change. What was once the perfect solution can slowly turn into a limitation if you refuse to adjust it. Growth always demands new tools. The system that carried you to your first breakthrough may not be strong enough to support the weight of your bigger ambitions. Just as a craftsman upgrades from basic tools to precision instruments as their skill improves, you must also refine your processes to match your expanding abilities. This doesn't mean abandoning what worked. It means evolving it so it can serve the version of you that exists today, not the one who started years ago. There is also a danger in becoming emotionally attached to your original methods. You may take pride in the fact that they got you this far and resist changing them because they feel familiar, but comfort can be a trap. Clinging to the old ways for the sake of sentiment can cause you to stagnate. True mastery requires the courage to let go of what is no longer useful, even if it once felt essential. The willingness to change is a sign of strength, not betrayal. Upgrading your system is not just about making it more efficient. It's about keeping it aligned with your new goals. As your vision expands, your process must expand with it. The pace, scale, and quality you aim for now may be far greater than before, and that requires a system capable of delivering those results consistently. Without adaptation, you risk building a gap between your aspirations and your daily actions, and that gap can quietly erode your momentum. Sometimes the evolution of a system is gradual, with small improvements made over time. Other times it requires a complete overhaul, stripping away old routines and replacing them with ones that fit your current stage. Both approaches have value, and knowing which to use comes from paying close attention to your results. If your progress feels slow despite consistent effort, it may be a sign that your system has reached its limit and needs a serious upgrade. The most successful people are not those with the most flawless systems from the start. They are the ones who are willing to rebuild their systems whenever the situation demands it. They treat every stage of growth as a new beginning, crafting fresh methods to match their current reality. In doing so, they ensure that their process is never outdated, never mismatched, and always capable of carrying them to the next level. This flexibility keeps them moving forward long after others have plateaued. My friends, goals may inspire you for a season, but systems will sustain you for a lifetime. Build a way of working, living, and thinking that keeps moving forward, even when your eyes are not fixed on the prize. For when you master the system, you master the outcome, again and again without end.